city that welcomes you to the island of Sicily. It is also called Porta della Sicilia, gateway to Sicily, because Messina is the first city you see when you leave the mainland of Italy. Well, unfortunately, Messina was almost completely destroyed by a tremendous earthquake in 1908. So nowadays you can see a modern city with some important examples from its glorious past, such as the beautiful cathedral and its bell tower, which were rebuilt after the earthquake in their original medieval form. If you look on your right hand, you can see the votive still of Our Lady of the Letter, the Holy Mary, with their hand held up to bless the city of which she is the patron saint. The statue stands at the tip of a peculiar peninsula, the peninsula of San Raineri. This peninsula is sickle-shaped, and it was put there in 1934 at the tip of this peninsula. The statue, the votive still, stands on top of a 16th century fortress. On the wall surrounding the fortress you can read the Latin words Vos et ipsam civitatem benedicimus. We bless you and the city itself. Well, according to the legend, these words were included in the letter that Mary of Nazareth gave to the ambassadors from Messina in the year 42 AD, when they went to Palestine to pay homage to the Mother of Christ. From that moment on, Our Lady of the Letter is the patron saint of the city of Messina. It's a tradition, of course. Always on your right hand, you can see the mainland of Italy, the city of Reggio Calabria, the city of Villa San Giovanni, and the Strait of Messina. The Strait of Messina not only separates Sicily from the rest of Italy, but it also connects two seas, the Ionian Sea on your right and the Tyrrhenian Sea, which is to the north. The main means of transport in the Strait of Messina is the ferry boat. We have a ferry boat service that connects the city to the Calabrian coast. You'll find a ferry boat every 40 minutes, time of crossing 20 minutes. We also have faster means of transportation, such as the hydrofoils. Well, I told you that Messina was almost completely destroyed by this tremendous event in 1908. It occurred on the 28th of December at 5:20 in the morning a.m. It not only destroyed the city of Messina, but also the city of Reggio Calabria, Villa San Giovanni, the whole area of the Strait of Messina. It has been calculated that at least 10,000 people died because of that tragic event. After the tragedy, it has been decided to rebuild the city on anti-seismic and safety standards. So for the new buildings, they used, for instance, reinforced concrete. They built no more than 2 or 3 story buildings and larger streets, wide squares, courtyards in between the buildings, all for safety purposes. That's why nowadays you can see a modern city, especially in the city center, with small buildings and large streets. Well, now on your right, if you look in the small square on your right, you can see the fountain of Neptune by Giovanni Angelo Montorsoli. Montorsoli was a great artist. He was a sculptor, he was an architect. He lived in the mid-16th century. He was a follower of Michelangelo Buonarroti, the great painter and sculptor. He worked with him in Florence, in Rome, etc. Well, the Senate of Messina commissioned to this important artist, Giovanni Angelo Montorsoli, the creation of 2 fountains to embellish the city center. One of these fountains is located in the Cathedral Square. The fountain is called the Fountain of Orion, the giant, the mythological giant Orion. This fountain is considered one of the most beautiful fountain in Europe, Renaissance fountain in Europe. The fountain on your right is dedicated to the god of the sea, Neptune, who makes the two sea monsters living in the Strait of Messina, Scylla and Charybdis, harmless by chaining them. Well, the Strait of Messina has always been particularly dangerous for the sailors, for the navigation, insidious because of its strong tidal currents, its winds, its whirlpools, etc. So, ancient population tried to explain this natural event through the imagination, so they created myths and legends about the Strait of Messina. One of these legends talks about Scylla and Charybdis, the two sea monsters which live in the Strait of Messina. Scylla lives near the Sicilian coast, near Messina, while Charybdis lives near. Scylla lives near the Calabrian coast, and Charybdis lives near the Sicilian coast. They are complementary and frontal monsters. Scylla is described as a terrible monster with 6 heads, with 6 dogs' heads. Each head can eat a sailor. While the other monster, Charybdis, living near Messina, is represented as an horrible monster with a huge mouth full of sharp teeth. So this legend is very famous. Well, imagine also Homer in the Odyssey talks about Scylla and Charybdis. Well, on your right you can see one of the oldest churches in Messina, the Church of St. Francis of Assisi, originally built in 1255. We know that Pope Alexander VI blessed and sent the foundation stone. Well, adjacent to the church once stood a monastery in which St. Anthony of Padua stayed for a period of time. But the monastery was destroyed by the earthquake, while the church was damaged and rebuilt brick by brick by reusing the original materials.
Wow. Crazy drivers.
While Sicily is the largest island in the Mediterranean Sea, it is located in central Mediterranean and lies about 100 miles, 160 kilometers northeast of Tunisia, which is in northern Africa. To the east, Sicily is separated from the mainland of Italy by the Strait of Messina. In the Strait of Messina, Sicily and the mainland of Italy are separated by just 2 miles, 3 kilometers at their closest points, in the northern part of the Strait of Messina. Sicily has a roughly triangular shape, which earned it the name of Trinacria. In ancient times, in fact, the Greeks called Sicily Trinacria, meaning 3 capes, which are supposed to be the tips of an hypothetical triangle. The first cape is located right in Messina. Its name is Capo Peloro. Messina is the northeast corner of Sicily. The second cape is located in southeast coast of Sicily. Its name is Capo Passero. The third one in the northwestern area of Sicily. Its name is Capo Lilibeo. Well, nowadays we don't use anymore this word Trinacria to name the island of Sicily, but we still use it to name the symbol of Sicily, symbol that you can see on the flag, on the Sicilian flag. Sicily has roughly 5 million inhabitants. We have 9 big cities. Palermo is the chief town of Sicily with around 700,000 inhabitants. Messina is the third largest city with around 240,000 inhabitants. Sicily is the largest region in Italy and the fourth for number of inhabitants. Well, each of the 9 big cities we have here in Sicily has a province. We call them administrative provinces, that's to say, a territory belonging to a bigger city, which is under the authority of a bigger city. Messina has the largest province, the largest territory in Sicily. In our territory we have 108 municipalities. Some of these villages and towns in Messina's territory are also very famous on a touristic point of view. We have, for instance, Taormina, which is called the Pearl of the Ionian Sea. We also have the coast town of Giardini Naxos with the ancient archaeological site of Naxos. Naxos was the first city founded by the Greeks in Sicily in 734 before Christ. Then we also have some foothill villages such as Savoca and Forza d'Agro, which are famous not only for their treasures, they are medieval villages, but they are also famous because they were chosen by Francis Ford Coppola for the shooting of some scenes of The Godfather, the cult movie. Then we also have the coastal town of Milazzo, which is one of the largest towns in Messina's territory. Right in front of Milazzo, in the lower Tyrrhenian Sea, you can see the archipelago of the Ionian Islands, the 7 small islands, the 7 small sisters are as they are called. The closest to the coast, the closest to Milazzo is the island of Volcano, only 33 kilometers far away from Milazzo. Well, Palermo is the chief town of Sicily. Palermo is located in the northwestern area of Sicily. It is about 230 kilometers far away from Messina. We have an international airport near the city of Palermo. Another international airport is near the city of Catania. Catania is the second largest city in Sicily with about 300,000 inhabitants. Well, I told you Messina has the largest territory. Messina also have the longest coastline kilometers in Sicily, more than 200 kilometers of coasts between the Ionian Sea and the Tyrrhenian Sea, the Ionian coast and the Tyrrhenian coast, because Messina is one of the 3 tips on the northeast corner. Messina and its province are bathed by 2 seas, the Ionian Sea and the Tyrrhenian Sea. Well, Sicily and its islands, its small surrounding islands, also have some active volcanoes. The most important is Mount Etna. Mount Etna is the biggest, the largest active volcano in Europe. It currently stands 3,350 meters high, that's to say about 11,000 feet. But this may change with summit eruptions. Well, Mount Etna is not only a volcano, it's also a mountain, the highest in Italy, south of the Alps. It's one of the UNESCO World Heritage Sites in Sicily. It is widely regarded as a cultural symbol, as an icon of Sicily. Sicilian people call it simply the mountain, in our slang, a montagna, because for us Mount Etna is the mountain par excellence. Mount Etna is considered the second most active volcanoes in the world, in an almost constant state of activity. We currently have 4 summit craters on top of Mount Etna, 4 open craters. At least one of these 4 craters is almost always active. Almost always active doesn't mean that we can always see lava fontainings, lava flow, etc. Active also means emission of gases, and Mount Etna emits a lot of gases. Also emission of ashes, emission of lapilla, smoke, steam, etc. In fact, on top of Mount Etna, we can often see a plume of smoke, which is formed by puffs of smoke or puffs of steam. These 4 summit craters behave like the valves of a pressure cooker, avoiding the pressure inside to build up enough to create a large, huge explosion, explosive activity, destructive activity. Well, another important active volcano is on the island of Stromboli in the archipelago of the Ionian Islands. Stromboli is both the name of the island and the name of the volcano. This volcano is considered the 3rd most active in the world. It tends to erupt every 20 minutes. Well, the activity of Stromboli is a little bit different from Etna, because Stromboli has got a more explosive activity with emission of lapilla, volcanic stones and lava fontainings. Well, imagine that in ancient times the Romans called this volcano the lighthouse of the Mediterranean Sea, because they could see these lava fontainings, these huge lava fontainings, also from far away. Well, agriculture is the main industry on the island, also thanks to the fertile soil, mild climate. We have a typical Mediterranean climate with mild and wet winters and hot and dry summers. You can also see the typical Mediterranean vegetation, the so-called Macchia mediterranea, the evergreen shrubs and plants such as the prickly pear, the olive tree, the fig tree, the cypress, the pine tree, but also the rosemary, the thyme, etc. The 3 symbol plants of Sicily are the grapevine, the olive tree and the wheat. The main agricultural products include citrons, oranges, lemons, almonds, pistachio, but also olives, olive oil, tomatoes and wine. Sicily is the 3rd wine producer in Italy after Veneto and Emilia-Romagna. They produce, for instance, a big amount of high-quality wines on the slopes of Mount Etna. Well, the particular microclimate we have on Mount Etna, the fertility of the soil, very rich in minerals, facilitated but also helped the grapevine cultivation and consequently the wine production. Other important industries include processed food, chemicals, petroleum, in the area of Syracuse, for instance, and also textiles, ships, leather goods, tourism. Tourism plays a very important role for our economy. Tourists often visit Sicily for its pleasant climate, beautiful nature, landscapes, history, architecture, cuisine as well, for its archaeological sites. In fact, we have several UNESCO World Heritage Sites. I told you before Mount Etna, but also the archipelago of the Ionian Islands, the Villa Romana del Casale, which is an ancient Roman-era dwelling located in central Sicily, very, very famous for its mosaics, well-preserved Roman mosaics. Then we also have the city of Catania and the late Baroque towns of Val di Noto, which were rebuilt after the 1693 earthquake in a beautiful Sicilian late Baroque style. Then the city of Syracuse and the rocky necropolis of Pantalica, which is a prehistoric necropolis entirely carved into the limestone rock. Last but not least, the important archaeological site of Agrigento, the so-called Valley of the Temples, which is one of the most important, one of the largest archaeological sites in the whole Mediterranean area. And Sicily was already inhabited 10,000 years before Christ. Its strategic location in central Mediterranean has always made it a crossroads for history, people, cultures, languages, a place of conquest as well, and ultimately we may say melting pot for many ethnic groups. Throughout its history, in fact, Sicily has been influenced by a variety of culture, including Greeks, Romans, Byzantines, Arabs, Normans, Swabians, French and Spanish. Well, as a result of all these influences, we have a rich, unique, a very complex culture. Each population, each foreign people who settled here in Sicily has left something in relation to mentality, way of living as well, language. Well, our dialect is considered a real language, for instance. Well, among all the population, foreign people that influenced our history, our culture, I'd like to tell you something about the Greeks, the Romans, and the Arabs. When the Greeks arrived on the Sicilian coast in the second half of the 8th century before Christ to found new cities, they first settled right this area of Sicily, the northeast coast. Naxos was the first city founded by the Greeks in 734 before Christ, soon followed by many others, including Zancle, the present-day Messina, Catania, the present-day Catania. Well, the Greeks called Messina Zancle. Zancle means sickle. They called it in this way because of the shape of its port, the peninsula where the votive still stands. Well, the Greeks invented not only the modern democracy, but also the modern city, with a private area, private dwellings, but also with a public area, the so-called agora. The agora was the main square. At the agora, you could find all the economical activities, the public buildings, the market. It was the place where people met. Well, there was also a sacred area in a Greek city, the so-called Acropolis. The Acropolis was the highest part of the city, fortified. It was fortified. Inside the Acropolis there were the temples dedicated to their gods and also other important religious buildings. And we can still admire the vestiges of these ancient cities if you visit the archaeological sites spread throughout Sicily. The Romans conquered Sicily in the second half of the 3rd century before Christ and ruled it for many centuries until the 5th century AD. While the Romans as well, they built new big cities, they rebuilt ancient Greek cities with theaters, amphitheaters, thermal baths. The Romans were very fond of thermal baths. But the Romans were also great road builders. They built the main roads we still use in Italy, in the whole country. Here in Sicily they built several roads, especially coast roads. Via Valeria, that connected Messina to the east with Lilibeo, the present-day Marsala, to the west, and via Pompeia, which connected Messina to the north with Syracuse to the south, were used for commercial and military purposes and linked not only big cities but also small villages. And today we are going to have a stroll, have a walk down Corso Umberto I, the main street of Taormina. Corso Umberto I is part of the ancient Via Pompeia, which connected Messina to Syracuse. This was mainly a coast road, but it also went up to Taormina to the height of about 200 meters above sea level, because Taormina was a very important town under the Romans. Well, the Arabs conquered Sicily in the 9th century AD and ruled it for about 2 centuries. Well, at first we had violent struggles, battles, resistance against the Arabs. Sicilian people didn't want them to conquer the island because it would have meant a change in civilization as well, in religion. But in the end, when the Arabs managed to conquer the island, a period of richness, a period of prosperity began. The Arabs in fact introduced some important productions, such as the silk production, the cotton production, the citrus fruits production, so the sugarcane production as well. So they introduced 2 plants which have become a sort of symbol of Sicily, the lemon tree and the orange tree. Then we had the Normans, the Swabians, the French for a short period of time, and then the Spanish, which ruled Sicily for many centuries until the second half of the 19th century, when the island was annexed to the Italian kingdom by the Savoia royal family. After the Second World War in 1947, Italy became a republic and Sicily obtained a special autonomy, a special statute. So we are able to make our own laws, we have our own flag, our own parliament, but we are not independent. We are a region of the Italian state. If you look right opposite us, in that direction, you can see Her Majesty Mount Etna smoking. Well, it's very active, especially the southeast crater is active at the moment. In the belly of the Ox, Valle del Bove, we have a new emission of lava flow, not only lava fountainings from the summit craters, but also new craters from the flank, from the walls of this big basin, big valley. So today we are visiting Taormina. Taormina is a small town in the province, in the territory of Messina, located at the height of about 200 meters above sea level on a hillside of Monte Tauro overlooking the Ionian Sea. Well, the area around Taormina was already inhabited by the Sicels, the Siculi, a local population, even before the Greeks arrived to found Naxos on the coast. Some centuries later, in 358 before Christ, a group of colonists, a group of people from Naxos moved to the mountain, to the flank of the mountain, to found Taormina. Taormina literally means the dwelling on the bell-shaped hill. Well, Taormina is a very ancient town and still occupies the ancient site. That's why, while walking down the streets of Taormina, you can still see important examples from the past belonging to different historical periods and cultures. From the classical period, the Greek-Roman period, we can admire the remarkable Greek-Roman theatre, but also the Odeon, a smaller theatre, fragments of beautiful mosaics belonging to ancient Roman-era dwellings, the Thermobats ruins, the Naumachie, a monumental nymphium. From the Middle Ages, we can still see the 13th century cathedral, the typical narrow streets, fragments of the city walls, and the ruins of the castle. From the modern age, we have the town hall building, Baroque churches, fountains, but for sure we can say that the most remarkable monument remaining in Taormina is the ancient Greek-Roman theatre, which is one of the most celebrated ruins in Sicily, on account both of its remarkable preservation and its beautiful location. The theatre is still used for opera, theatrical performances, international concerts, while once a year between June and July the Taormina International Film Festival takes place. Well, unfortunately today the theatre is going to close at 1:30. Well, it has closed, I think, yes, because they are shooting some scenes for a movie, a TV movie, I don't know. So it is closed in the afternoon, you can't visit it. But besides this important monument, the small town has many lively bars, fine restaurants, luxury hotels, but also antique shops, international brands, craft shops. Taormina is a lively town where you can attend all the year round also international art exhibitions. Taormina is called the Pearl of the Ionian Sea. It became already famous in the late 19th century. Also thanks to the German painter Otto Gehlen, who loved painting recruits areas in southern Italy, including Taormina. He painted everything the town could offer to his side, not only the ruins but also the sea, the mountains, Mount Etna with snow, and the almond trees in blossom, contributing to spread all over Europe the image of the town. So at the beginning of the 20th century, Taormina became a high exclusive place to visit, to live in. It hosted in fact several intellectuals, artists, painters, musicians, but also writers and later movie directors and actors. Till now, Taormina is considered one of the most important tourist destinations in Italy. Well, during your free time in Taormina, if you want to taste Sicilian flavors, I suggest you to try cannolo, the typical Sicilian sweet. Well, we say cannolo, one cannolo, but we also say 2, 3, 4, 5, 100 cannoli. Cannoli is plural, cannolo is one. Well, cannolo is a crispy tube filled with ricotta, a kind of light cheese and pieces of chocolate. Well, if you want to taste savory food, I suggest you to try arancino. Arancino means little orange because of its color and shape. It looks like a small orange. It's a street food. It is a specialty made with rice, tomato sauce, pieces of meat, cheese, mixed and fried. On your right, Mount Etna.
Orazio un pettonaggio, dillo.
Don't worry. So please prepare your ship cards for the check. You have to pass through the check. Now you have, okay. You have to pass through the check over there.
Okay.
We're going to get in over there.
Okay.
Sei speciale. Sei il numero uno, Orazio. Sei una bella coppia tutti e due. Mi guarda a te se può cavolo.
Io lo anticipo sempre, gioco sulla anticipata. Così facciamo a parare.
Pensaba atrás, ¿no? Que se veía la estela, el barco, ¿no?
Margherita bella!